Oh, you need a 3.
To stick together as a family in times of need.
Oh, look! We got 2. We got 3, and I got 4.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, Audrey, you should take your 8.
Our
Take
family.
4 and put 3 back. I'll find 6.
No,
wait!
You can do what you want.
6. It's
You
3!
want? You are the one
Yeah,
telling me
Audrey,
to
yeah.
not help
You don't
with
get
this.
to any of these now. No, Audrey, you get to have that. We need 4, though. We need to have 4. We need to have... Look, I won! Look, I got in the twilight. Where is... Oh, yes. Yes. Damn. I couldn't try and find it. Try and find 1. Dang, in line. Where's 4, Audrey? I don't need this one. I need this one, yeah! Audrey, you're 4 years old, so you need a match. No, I can't think. I'm 3-year-old now. You're not a 3-year-old, you're a 4-year-old. Pick your drink. Pick. Hi, guys. Just get all the strings out.
Alright, let me see if I can show you this. Where you have to put 2 if your stitch is going downward, you need to put 2 on there. So let's see what the 2 will look like, so you will know. And then that way you can get it better than I have been getting it. It's all wonky. Alright, I'm putting it in the same one that I just put it in. And then that way, you can bring it up. There we go. Right. Let me get you and show you. Would you move out of my way? See there? Now the next one, I'm going to put 2. And it should make it to where it will go all the way around. I think what I did before is I put more than 2. But other than that, it's turning out pretty good. My lip over here is going away. Or my valley, whatever you want to call it. It's going away. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. This right here, I'd like for it to go a little bit rounder. Like over here. But I'm going to work on it. I think I had too many right in here. And that's the reason why it's looking like it is. Alrighty. Alright. Here's the other 2. If you notice, it's starting to go around now. So there's the other 2. So this one goes here. That one goes there. But anyway, it's working out pretty good now. Alright, so I'm going to keep on going. And what I'm going to do, I think on this side, this corner, is not add anything. And just keep on going with it. Because it looks like I added it here and right here. So I wonder if it would help I add 2 right in here. I don't know. I think I'm gonna think about it and see if I can't level that out, because I'm not liking it. I want it to be round.
The rest of the stuff they talked about was, I'll tell you later, but they found out that I didn't have anything to do with taking the body. They started coming back and taking me on I don't know, squatching adventures and taking me to different,
They
different
took you?
Yes.
Wow.
I'll get to that in a minute. But this whole time they're talking, they're going on and on about I'm trying to remember some of the. Oh, okay. The one thing that they did was he was setting up the Caledonia Sportsman Club. This is kind of interesting too. This is a gun club. There wasn't any kind of a gun club there. It was like a fishing and gun club or something that these guys met somewhere, and he organized them and got some land, and he put it in where where it's at right now to drive the Sasquatch out. That's what he said. The reason to put that gun club in there right by where that boy Mike was taken. That's if you want to find out the exact spot where that happened, go to the Caledonia Gun Club and go walk around there. You'll find everything. So they talked about that, but the weird thing he talked about was a case a year or two earlier, and I don't have a whole lot of details on this other than the area, because he talked about the gun club that he opened up there. It was around Gull Lake, which was about 15 miles south of where I live now, which wasn't really far for a Sasquatch to go. And he just kind of vaguely talked about another child being taken down there and them, developing another gun club down there, Kalamazoo Rod and Gun Club down there, and he organized them. They already had a gun club down there, but he made it bigger and better. That's what they did back then. And it doesn't work. But I'll get to that later. When I found out later when I had my memory come back and I went back to that area, they're still there even when they're shooting the guns off.
Wow.
So they don't even care. I mean, I'm sure they care when it's hunting season and they know them in the woods, but they seem to be able to figure it out that the people at the gun club are going to shoot there and not,
Yeah.
But they took me in to get me hypnotized shortly after they talked about all that. They took me into Grand Rapids over by the jail and the correctional facility over there and took me into a hypnotherapist and started the procedure. And at a certain point in time, the hypnotherapist figured out that it was about Sasquatch and it wasn't about a person. And he started flipping out. You're doing this to this kid because this is about some monkey running around in the woods. And this happened quite often in this government agent where he would just like make a phone call and just threaten the hell out of this guy. And he just finally went along with it. I don't know what kind of power he had. It was some sort of general or something like that. Wow. Would call these people and because they did that with when I went down to get my stitches that I told you about. The doctor, they actually gave a card to my dad. It's going to if anything happens, have the doctor call this. Because it was for, like this, like a claw mark down there. The doctor goes right away. He's going this isn't an animal. This is a human. And he like flipping out. And we're going, my dad's like, here, call this. And, he called that guy, Jerry, and all of a sudden he was just like, okay. He didn't say anything. And I actually tried to go find those records too, and I couldn't find them. I even actually had a nurse go in the basement down there and look through all the Rolodex files and stuff like that. She couldn't find anything either. But, they had a long time to cover everything up. I found their tracks, though. I'll get to that later. I mean, they stole microfiche, newspaper articles in the news footage, and I found their empty spots and their little notes they left behind.
Wow.
Took pictures. I mean, it took me years. I went down to the state of Michigan. I went down to like all the local newspapers, looked through all their microfiche and all their leftover newspapers I had for years. I would spend hours and hours a day doing that just to find all the evidence. And anyway, they get me in there and they get me hypnotized. Somehow the neighbor kids find out that I got hypnotized. They took advantage of that because they weren't brought in yet to be hypnotized for, I don't know what the period of time was. Maybe a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. But their dads got arrested for, hiding the body. And
hold on. They got arrested for hiding the body.
Yes.
What's the charges? I mean,
the
charge hiding Sasquatch?
The newspaper article for the court hearing for the one guy was called hiding, burying and disposal of a wild animal. That's all it said. Well, you can't go into the woods. It's kind of a legit thing. You can't go to the woods and take a deer without a license.
Sure.
It's the same thing. They think that, Sasquatch are like all the animals in the woods and they belong to the government and you can't kill one of them without a license. So that's what they charged him with, which wasn't a big charge, but Yeah, all the kids were mad that their dads got taken away. They
Yeah.
beat the ever living crap out of me the next day in the bus. I mean, and they knew I was hypnotized. I don't even know what they were even talking about. You know,
They knew you were hypnotized?
they knew I was hypnotized to forget about it, and they still beat the crap out of me every day. They would like lie to all the kids in school. They made my life a living freaking hell. Even the government agent later told them, he was like, you should put him in another school, and my dad wouldn't do it because he didn't care. He blamed me for everything that happened and hated me ever since.
Who?
My dad.
Your dad did?
Yeah.
Your dad hated you?
Oh, yeah. I haven't talked since I was 13 after that. And
Really?
I get to that, but he blamed me, because they took my mom, and when she came back, she was abusive before. She was just a nightmare when she came back. She wasn't even the same person, and that happens to some of the people that get hypnotized. They just don't deal with it well. They took me back. I had to deal with all those kids harassing me, beating the crap out of me. I didn't have any friends left in school. That went all the way through junior high and high school. The Native Americans found out, they didn't have anything to do with actually taking the body. It wasn't my idea, so they started getting a little bit more friendly with me. And when they found the pictures, they went and found the body, and they found the pictures in the dark room. They found, this is something I've never talked about either because I tried to protect these families, but these families have been nothing but torture me. They tortured me even just recently when I worked at the county 20 years ago. They were working at the county, and they got me fired working at the county. I didn't know why. They were so seeking me out and trying to, they had an agenda like ruining my life for, I never knew about it.
I'd rather keep last names out of it just for legal purposes.
Did I?
No. Since we're on the topic, Mike Karn, is that somebody that's okay to have the last name in? Because I just don't want to be sued
really
for defamation.
To find him. He isn't going to sue us or anything.
Okay.
Mike and Russell, I already told them about it. The Mike K, the other kid that I went to the woods with, I found out I was talking to for years, and he was giving me all sorts of false information.
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering. I just dropped him. I was going like after so many lies, I just told him to go to hell. I just never talked to him again. And I was talking to Tom for a long time too. And then I figured
out what Tim's dad, right?
Yep. I was telling him everything that was going on until I started figuring stuff out too. And I told him I can show you that. I got it even on my phone. Him talking to me the last time he talked to me. I said, I'm gonna pull the plug on this one, or whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna name names. And he goes, well, you can't threaten my friends and family and all this and blah, blah, blah. And I said, sue me, I dare you. I said, I have so much stuff on you and your family, you wouldn't even know. You would never, ever get out of it. And They won't. And the agents, I have everything on the agents. I have addresses, I have names, I have, all the wonderful things that they did. But let me see, where was I in this story? They found pictures when they went to find the pictures of the Sasquatch. In the dark room, they found other pictures of neighborhood kids that were naked. That's what they're holding over them. And I'm not supposed to talk about them and or that. And,
so there was more.
The other things that went on with these couple sexually delinquent freaking the older boy and Tim's older brother and the one Brad kid, and the stuff they did to kids and tried to do to me and other kids in junior high and stuff that brought the freaking government back in because they were kind of watching over us for a few years. And but that's another story. That's just my little hell. I don't even know what the time frame was when they started. These two local tribal people guys. One's name was John, and the other one's name was oh my God, they all start with J's. You need a break or something here in a minute.
That's fine.
But both of them started coming around. The first thing I remember was them picking me up, not knowing why they picked me up and let my parents would always let me go with them. we're going to go bury the ashes of your friend, they said. I'm like, what are you talking about? I had no clue what they were talking about. They took me back to that spot where the boy got taken, and they had the ashes from the hand, supposedly, that this guy Jerry had made and sent these other two guys with him and just spread the ashes and had a little Indian powwow ceremony where they had drum and feathers and all that stuff, and they went through the whole 9 yards with that thing. And they take Sasquatch very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And they kept on coming back, and they would take me out squatching, I guess you would call it. And they would do that in between some of the other local tribes, like the Chippewa tribe up north of us, and a bunch of other tribes in the UP. They took me to all of them, and that's why I know with their Neanderthal, they would repeat the story over and tell the tribes that we found this body, it belongs to us, and like this is what they told them. They said it was the first complete body, and that it's going to have a scientific name behind it. And it'll never come to light because of what the other people did. Because the scientific name, supposedly for Sasquatch, is the scientific name for Neanderthal, followed by those other two families and my last name, very last. That's what they told me. I don't know if they're blind or not. If they wanted to tell me that as a kid to keep me, from not talking, I don't know. They're never gonna seem to come out with this, but the other families been trying to hide it the whole damn time, and that's why. And this guy Tom actually worked with me at the county, and he was a commissioner, and I was just a maintenance worker there, and he just made my life a living hell. Got me fired from my job, and I finally figured it out, who did it and stuff like that, but that's that story, I think. I don't think I missed anything this time. How long has it been?
Well, we are over 3 hours. Or yeah, we're working on the third hour now, so it's been 2 full hours. No, but it's fine. Listen, that is an incredible story. It's incredible how it's come together. You recalling it, and this is literally like a halfway point, because now you shared your memories from your childhood, how this all started, and there's a whole other side of this now as an adult, you tracking these things down and stuff. I mean, intertwining, like it seems like from what I've gathered, there's people still trying to hide the truth, and there's you trying to uncover the truth. And let's take a break.
Okay, good.
And let's go out and get some lunch, and then we'll come back, and then we'll do the overtime, where we'll just do more conversation and have you share what you've been uncovering since this memory dump it's almost like a download. It's been dumped into your brain. So
yeah, it's kind of awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how much torment they put me through high school and through junior high and stuff. It was absolutely awful. I don't even want to tell you. There was an incident, and they tried pulling some sexual stuff on some other kid in the shower, and they tried it with me the day before. This is in junior high, and it didn't pan out too much. But they knew it happened because this other kid, they tried something with him, and they ended up breaking his leg in the shower.
Wow.
And it just blew up from there. Those two kids, the two older kids, got sent to detention or something like that, like a lockup, out of school for months. It was like so many years of my life that just took up, and it was so awful because like when my mom came back, and my sister, I had a sister the whole time. The first time that it happened, she was gone at her friends because it was Labor Day weekend, and she was staying at her friends before she went to school. So she didn't see that, and they kept it out of her, or kept her out of it because they didn't want her to get hypnotized either. And they actually kind of liked her because she looked like an Indian girl. That's what they told me. But they would call my aunt up and have her go out for pizza when they would come over and talk to me. So my sister was out of the loop to begin with, and they kept her out of it. And there was another girl down the road, Brad's sister. They kept her out of the loop too, so they didn't have to have her hypnotized, because that can really go screwy.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, having all these memories come back, it was literally like waking up from a coma, and just to go like, oh my God, my whole freaking life was ruined. All these issues that I had of trust issues and all these things that got destroyed, and it was all because of that. And it's just like, of course, they gave me the will to not have fear with them too, because I just honestly, when I first started researching, I'll make this short. When I started researching, I'd have to have somebody go with me. I was scared, to be out in the woods alone with them, because I didn't know what they were going to do until I, had a clue that they weren't. That, because a lot of things that they do, like, the way they stalk you and the way they,
Seems threatening.
It seems threatening, but it's for their own safety, and I didn't know that, and when I first started, but it was a big learning curve. I'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break and head on over to lunch, and then we'll do the second half for the overtime with the members here. Randy, before we get out of here, let people know again about your anything you want to promote, your research organization, or anything you'd like to promote, your YouTube or whatever.
Still, promoting Midwest Bigfoot researchers, and I'm on YouTube, but
This is intended to be a quick follow-up to the last video. The last video I made was just to show that they're putting ingredients that have been banned in other countries into foods when they obviously don't have to. And to ask the question, why? Why is that? I've been seeing a lot of people on social media lately posting stories about how they go to other countries. They leave this continent and they go to other countries, and after being there not even for very many days, they feel better. And they recognize that feeling of being healthier and feeling generally overall better, having more energy, less body aches, etc., sleeping better, all of it, is coming from the food that they're eating being of higher quality. And the people who never leave this country don't have an outside perspective of seeing what that actually is in practice. I didn't until we went over to Europe for the filming of this movie we've been working on for 5 years. That was my first time really leaving this country. And I went to various countries over there, and I realized something. The food over there, because I'm a label reader. I read labels like people read novels. Okay, I'm all up in it. I want to know what's going in my body now. The labels over there, like in the UK, for example, you can read a label and it's very basic what's in that food. You do not need a high-level chemistry degree to interpret it like it's a Egyptian hieroglyphic tablet you found in a cave somewhere. You actually could just pick up something off a shelf and read the label and go, oh, this is what's in the food I'm about to eat. And you know what that is. It's amazing. And they have whole stores, like organic gas station-like stores. Do you know here in America, if you found an organic gas station, that would be like finding a flying unicorn or something. That they don't exist. You can't just go into a gas station and expect to find something responsible to eat, hardly ever. You'll be lucky if they have anything there that's not filled with chemicals and additives. Good luck. But over there, whole convenience stores that are organic. When I saw that, I filmed it. I couldn't believe it existed. I was like, wow, this is like seeing Bigfoot or something. I got to get this on tape so I can show the folks back home. And what we have in this country in way of food protection is a ridiculous clown-like joke. We have something known as GRAS, generally recognized as safe, which when people hear it, oh, the FDA says it's GRAS, they're like, oh, it's generally recognized as safe. But what does that actually mean? We generally recognize that it's safe? It has a safe costume on, and we stare at it from across the room and we go, I generally recognize that says the word safe on it. I recognized it. That doesn't mean it's safe, though. It's a joke. So this is up on the Environmental Working Group website, which I referenced in the last video. This is a really great website for learning about what's going on in our food, in our skincare, in our environment. It's a really good website for that. And it's talking here about exactly what GRAS is in very simple terms. Food and chemical companies are permitted to approve the use of new, potentially harmful additives and other substances in snacks, drinks, and more without the FDA's review or approval, all thanks to a regulatory loophole known as GRAS. generally recognized as safe, is a food category that was created by Congress in 1958. And when they created that, a lot of these chemicals didn't exist. And that designation was intended to apply to ingredients that most people know are okay. Basic things like chicken, water, salt. While the FDA usually has to approve substances intentionally added to food, that's not the case if it's designated GRAS. Once it's designated GRAS, that ingredient can bypass the FDA's pre-market review process, which allows all kinds of stuff to be put in our food that the FDA has never once determined is actually safe. The GRAS rule, finalized in 1997, created a voluntary notification system that lets manufacturers bypass federal regulators' review. Companies themselves can identify and use new GRAS ingredients, but are not required to share that information with the FDA. So that's the company saying, yeah, we said it's safe. We're the company that's going to sell that and make the money off of it. And we say, we recognize that it's safe. And the FDA said, oh, you recognize it's safe? I guess we will too. Back pat, handshake. That's how that works. This process has led to the addition of hundreds of chemicals to our food products without FDA oversight. Since 2000, food and chemical companies have used the GRAS loophole to approve 99% of new food chemicals. 99% have been approved through the GRAS loophole since 2000, according to a 2022 Environmental Working Group analysis. This leaves both the public and the FDA, charged with regulating our food system, in the dark about what's being put in our freaking food. Then they quote Michael Taylor, former Obama food safety czar Michael Taylor. We simply do not have the information to vouch for the safety of many of these chemicals. From this WAPO article, food additives on the rise as FDA scrutiny wanes. Michael Taylor, we have talked about many times. We used to make videos on food and stuff like this all the time. But Michael Taylor is a poster boy for how the revolving door between our government and the corporations that government is supposed to regulate works. So this is former Obama food safety czar, who was also vice president for public policy for Monsanto, who argued while he was practicing law with the firm King and Spalding, which actually represented Monsanto at the time, argued for the de minimis interpretation of the Delaney Clause, a 1958 federal law that prohibited the use of carcinogenic additives and chemicals from being put into the processed foods in this country. And in the 80s, Taylor's argument was for a de minimis interpretation of this. And the FDA went with, well, low exposure to chemicals found to cause cancer in animals be found safe under a, quote, reasonable certainty of no harm standard. Generally recognized. Reasonable certainty. I mean, these are not, certainty is either certain or it's not. Reasonable certainty, what is that? It's just something that they made up. It's just a semantics argument. And none of this de minimis interpretation stuff really addresses continuous low-level exposure, which is what would happen if you have a little bit of it for breakfast and these things you eat, and a little bit of it for lunch and these other things you eat, and a little bit more for dinner and this other thing you drink and this other thing that you eat. And once you do that 3 times a day or however many times a day you eat, which everyone has to eat every day, then you don't know how that cumulative effect of having continuous low-level exposure is actually affecting you and irritating your body over time. And in the 80s, when Michael Taylor was doing this de minimis interpretation, the year before he put out his paper, Deborah Strauss, who was a law clerk to a chief judge in the U.S. District Court, and prior to that was a Food and Drug Law Institute scholar at Yale, wrote a different paper about this. And right on the very first page, she said, from its inception, a subject of great debate, the Delaney Clause is now claimed to be outmoded in large measure due to scientific advances in detection mechanisms. As more food ingredients are tested for potential carcinogenity in animals, more are found indeed to be carcinogenic. Fully half of the substances the National Cancer Institute has tested for carcinogenity as part of its animal bioassay program have been deemed carcinogenic. So now they've detected all this stuff in the food supply. And she says exposure to a low level of carcinogen thus has to be considered a risk for everyone. So that's the argument she was making. And in the following year, we have Taylor making his argument while he's working at the law firm that's representing Monsanto. It's enough to make you want to cheese grate yourself naked over a cactus. It's just insane. It's insane. And the thing is that the because they can argument of this loophole and this ridiculous system they got set up here, the because they can argument does not mean they should. Just because they can do that here, because our system is set up in such a ridiculous clown-like fashion, it doesn't mean they should. And in countries in Europe and Japan, where the governments have seen fit to outlaw these chemicals from being put in the food because they don't want their populations to get sick consuming them. Countries, by the way, which have higher life expectancies than we do here, just by the way, these corporations have shown they can make a different version of the same product that doesn't have that stuff in there. You see this? Why? They don't have to. They've clearly shown they don't. Heinz ketchup in the UK is tomatoes, vinegar, sugar, salt, spice, and herb extracts. Spice. Here, tomato concentrate, distilled vinegar, high fructose corn syrup, regular corn syrup, salt, spice, onion powder, natural flavorings. The point is, if they can make clean versions of these items to sell to countries where they don't allow these chemicals in the food, why do they put them in the food and feed it to us here? People want to argue, well, you shouldn't be eating some of that stuff anyway. Well, that's not really the point of this video. And the other issue with that is that people who don't have a lot of money buy stuff like this because it's calories and they can afford it. We live in a country where if you want to buy organic, you got to pay. You got to pay more to not have extra pesticides on your food. You got to pay more for health food. You got to pay more. Somebody in the last video made the comment, when they started putting up health food sections in the grocery store, people should have got wise to how this works. Right? Shouldn't our food be mostly healthy? How come the majority of our food is not here? It's to the point here where we have headlines like this one from last year. U.S. food additives banned in Europe. Expert says what Americans eat is, quote, almost certainly, end quote, making them sick. That's a headline. They're just putting it in everyone's face. Yep, we know this is a problem. Experts are saying it. Hey, by the way, but in some Bernaysian-like magic trick, they've gotten people to separate the idea that what you eat is supposed to be for nutrition. It's supposed to give you the nutrients you need to exist. Eating is not supposed to be like a hobby just because of whatever tastes good. It's actually supposed to be for nutritional purposes. And sure, sometimes what tastes good, but people are putting up videos all over social media of what people looked like in the 70s, and they're saying, what happened to everyone? Look how thin and healthy everybody looked in the 70s. By the time the 80s came, we had the de minimis interpretation of the Delaney clause going on, and by the 90s, the Gross loophole. So, take a guess. But it doesn't make sense that we have all of these autoimmune issues, diabetes, obesity, cancer going up, all these insane skyrocketing amounts of allergies. Gee, I can't imagine why. I can't put two and two together and add them and figure this out. It's just too hard. And we actually do have bills that have been introduced. We'll see what actually happens. A bill to direct the Secretary of Health and Human Services to update and clarify its rule on substances generally recognized as safe. Boy, wouldn't that be nice. Why is it taking all this time for them to figure this out? There's another one, too, that has to do with Food Chemical Reassessment Act. These were both introduced last year. We'll see what happens, But in the meantime, you should read your labels. You should read your labels and become familiar with these things because they've really gotten people to separate the idea that food, if it's not something that agrees with your body, it can actually irritate the hell out of you. People don't usually think about what it means to have low-level activation of your immune system all the time from irritants, but it's not a good thing. Reading labels saved my life. I literally would not be talking to you guys right now if I hadn't started researching exactly what I was eating and how that could be affecting me years and years ago. I was a very overweight, sick 30-year-old who was on multiple medications. Things were not going well for me. So you got to read your ingredients. 2 websites that I recommend that are really good for information on learning more about what's in food are the Cornucopia Institute and the Environmental Working Group. The Environmental Working Group even has a food scores database where you can look up, they've ranked 80,000 plus products, food products, on nutrients, ingredients, and processing concerns. They even have an app. And you could go to this, and I will put a link so you guys can all go check this out. They have a score. 1 is the best and 10 is the worst, and they score based on nutrition concerns ingredient concerns like pesticides, food additives, all that kind of stuff, processing concerns, and you can type in a product like Zucaritas. As you can see, on a scale of 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, they've given Zucaritas a 9. And then you can click on that and it can show you why that is, what the concerns are, and it lists it all out here with all the information and everything. It's probably way more information than most people want about their food, but at least it's something. It's an option. It's a way to educate yourself about what you're eating. Unlike the average doctor in this country, where U.S. medical schools only offer 19.6 hours of nutrition education total across 4 years of medical school. I mean, where does that even make sense except in a clown world? And I don't know, this stuff really pisses me off. I think if people really fully understood some of this, there would be a lot more pressure on Congress to not be allowing these things. Anyway, I love you guys. I made that last video just to make a small point, because these things have to change. Nothing will get better until they do. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.